live from Ohio. It's Saturday night. No, I'm kidding. But it is Saturday night, and it is time to make the picks for the Week 13 slate of NFL games. And before I get started, I just wanted to make a little note. Got to spend the day watching Ohio State. Watched a little bit of the Indiana-Wisconsin game. Currently have BYU and Coastal Carolina on the TV because watching as much Zach Wilson as I can right now. And, not getting to see Minnesota play Northwestern this week. Despite how tough it's been this season and how rough Gopher football has been, it sucks when you don't have it. You don't realize what you have until it's gone. So I guess that means the message is we should just enjoy the football that we get while we have it, because in a few months everything's going to be over and we're going to be looking forward to draft. But that's okay because draft season is the second best thing about football. Changed my mind. But anyway, on to the task at hand. We have our games up here on the board. So if you're new here, this is the board. This is where I'll be making all the picks. You get to criticize them in the comments. Did not look up my record for last week and what it is total for the year. I think last week was pretty bad, but boom, there it is on the screen. That's how I did. And hopefully we can improve upon that. So for this week, we have a lot of interesting matchups, and I'm going to take some risks because it's getting to be the end of the season. And I think it's just time to be a little bit more bold than I have been in weeks past. So beginning with the Saints and the Falcons, I think the Taysom Hill experiment is fun. I'm glad they're getting it out of their system. I still think Jameis Winston would be the better choice at quarterback right now, but Sean Payton is a man who marches to the beat of his own drum, and there is no convincing him that what he is doing right now is stupid. Taysom Hill is not the quarterback of the future of this franchise, and I don't care if I end up on Freezing Cold Takes timeline with having said that. It's just a bizarre thing to make your special teams tight end wide receiver the quarterback. I don't get it. What I'm saying here is that I think that this is eventually going to come to an end. You always have situations where quarterbacks take over and they do well for a while. We separate the top tier quarterbacks from your backups after a number of games because eventually teams learn what you are and they develop ways to stop you. And eventually I think that's what's going to happen to Taysom Hill. The magic bullshit will eventually run out. This is a long-winded way to say I am taking the Falcons this week in their matchup against the Saints. Lions and Bears. Boy, this is tough because they're both terrible. I said it back when they had won 4 games that the Bears were fraudulent, and they have proven me correctly. They are now 5-6, and they are back to Mitchell Trubisky at quarterback, and Matt Nagy's job as the head coach of the Chicago Bears looks like it may be in danger. Matt Patricia has already been fired from the Detroit Lions, but I'm going to have to give this one to the Chicago Bears. Kenny Golladay is out again for this game. The Lions are 1-6 without Kenny Golladay in the lineup, and I'm just going to go based off of that. Next, we have the Browns and the Titans. This is a pretty tough matchup, but unfortunately the Browns defense is not very good, and the Titans offense is very good. So I have no choice but to give this one advantage Titans unless Baker Mayfield pulls something out of his ass that we haven't seen this year. Moving on to the Bengals and the Dolphins, this was supposed to be Joe Burrow versus Tua Tagovailoa. It is unfortunately not due to injury circumstances. So we're going to get the worst of the Bengals, who will probably lock up the one of the top 3 draft selections before it's all said and done. And then we have the Dolphins, who are, I don't know really what they're doing, but they're working on the playoffs. But this defense for the Dolphins can be very good. It will be very good against whatever offense the Bengals decide to have. So I'm going to go with the Dolphins in this game. Jaguars and Vikings. One of you said in the comments back on Sunday after the win over the Panthers that I should probably pick against the Vikings because every time I do, they apparently win because I picked the Panthers to win last week. Trying to justify a Jaguars win in this pick'em video is extraordinarily difficult because it looks like that the Jaguars are waving the white flag on this season. They're keeping their younger players off the field, even if it's just a minor injury where they absolutely could play. Gardner Minshew looks like he's probably going to be held out for the rest of the season. The Mike Glennon show is now for real. So, I don't know. I think the Jaguars are embracing the tank, if you will, because right now they're lined up to get the number 2 overall pick, which would likely mean Justin Fields. So, I'm going to go with the Vikings on this one. But I will say this as a caveat. We have a bad history and recent history, just this season, of playing against teams with bad records, right? The Falcons didn't have a win. The Cowboys had 2 wins. And the Jaguars have 1 win. If we lose to the Jaguars, that's going to be 3 horrible losses in one season that will probably end any sort of outside hope that we have in the run-up to the playoffs. And I think we will be back to those terrible weeks after the Falcons loss and the Cowboys loss where we were calling for people to be fired. At least I was. So we'll talk about more of that in the game preview that I'm going to release later tonight. But for this episode of the Pick'em video, I'm going with the Vikings. I'm sorry if this causes us to lose, and I am a huge jinx. Next, we have the Raiders and the Jets. I don't think I really have to say anything. I know Josh Jacobs is going to miss this game, but it's the Jets. It's Adam Gase. Until he is gone, the Jets will be forever an effort and futility. Next, we have the Colts and the Titans. This is an intriguing matchup. The Will Fuller news is a huge shocker, but when you kind of think about it, Will Fuller, contract year, has an injury history, trying to stay healthy so he can get a big contract in the offseason. Not really that shocking. Do I think he's going to get that big contract somewhere else in the offseason? Yeah, absolutely. He showed what he can do when he's healthy, even if it was through the use of PEDs. I'm not accusing him of that. It just seems likely that that's probably the situation. So with the Texans roster depleted, despite Deshaun Watson being a quarterback who deserves a better team, I have to go with the Colts because they have the better defense. Next, we have the Rams and the Cardinals. Very tough game to figure out. I'm not sure which team is going to show up on either sideline, really. The Rams, when Jared Goff is lost, look terrible. The Cardinals have played down to opponents, and they've really underachieved in certain games. And there's also these situations that still play Kyler Murray where he, forces turnovers and his stat line looks god-awful despite him being able to keep the games close. So, I don't know. This is a 50-50 toss-up for me. I'm going with the Rams. I also kind of have to root against the Cardinals for the sake of the Vikings playoffs hopes. Next, we have the Giants and the Seahawks. Don't really have to spend much time talking about this one. I think the Seahawks should win this handily. It's still going to probably be a close game because that's why you play the game. You never know what's going to happen. Next, we have the Eagles and the Packers. Carson Wentz defenders, I'm sorry, I don't see it. I think he has just regressed to the point beyond saving. And we're starting to wonder if that 2017 season was an anomaly. So I'm going to go with the Packers in this one to beat the Eagles. Next, we have the Chargers and the Patriots. This should be a really fun game. I would hope for a shootout, but I don't think the Patriots offense is talented enough for that. Cam Newton has absolutely no offensive weapons in the passing game. You can say what you want about Bird, but at the same time, I mean, come on, he would be a wide receiver 3 on most other teams. They have to get the running game going, and they have to keep Justin Herbert off the field. Can they do that? I don't think so. I think Justin Herbert and the Chargers will win this game. Next, we have the Broncos and the Chiefs. Despite all of the Broncos quarterbacks being healthy once again and eligible to play, I don't think that makes a difference. I'm going to go with the Chiefs. Patrick Mahomes cannot be stopped. Speaking of cannot be stopped, we arrive here at the Steelers game, who are now still undefeated. Coastal Carolina looks like it is taking BYU to the woodshed on whatever return this is. I just have the game, peeking over here in the corner. 14-13 currently BYU right now. Back to the Steelers. Eventually they're going to lose. Eventually it's going to happen. We haven't had a completely undefeated team since the 72 Dolphins? I always forget what year it is. But the New England Patriots came close, and they lost the only game of the season that mattered, right? 18-1. So I would think that if, as a Steelers fan, if I lose one of these games coming up, I don't care. I would rather lose a game in December as opposed to losing a game in January when it matters the most. So let's get the loss out of the way, and let's give it to a team that could be on the rise, coached by a really good coach, Ron Rivera, with an Antonio Gibson at the running back position and a pretty good pass defense that we saw, sort of stifle the Andy Dalton attack against Dallas that flourished against the Minnesota Vikings. I'm going to say that if they could handle CeeDee Lamb, they could handle Michael Gallup, they could handle Amari Cooper, they can handle the weapons that come from the Pittsburgh Steelers. Pittsburgh Steelers have also lost Bud Dupree. I think that's a little more insignificant given that the defense is still really, really, really good without him. We'll see if that's true. But I'm going to go with an upset here. It's going to happen eventually. I was a little early on the Bengals pick that I made weeks ago, but why not roll the dice against a team that is going to lose eventually, sometime. Next, we have the Bills and the 49ers. I'm going to give this one to the Bills, despite the 49ers scraping and clawing and finding ways to win football games this year. They're back to full health, not full health, but, they're healthier than they've ever been before, I would say, at least at this point in the season. Brandon Ayuk, Deebo Samuel's back. So, yeah, I like everything that the 49ers are doing recently. But I think the Buffalo Bills are still just a better team, and I think Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs and everybody out there is going to want to prove that this week. Next, we have the Cowboys and the Ravens. And I'm going to go with an upset here. I'm going to go with the Cowboys. I'm going to say that the Ravens lose because of just the wild couple of weeks that they've had. 4 different strains of COVID. One of them happened to be highly contagious. So I'm going to say that the Cowboys sneak one out against the Ravens. Are the Ravens completely done because of this? No, probably not. But I'm just, call it a hunch, call it a gut instinct, that I think the Cowboys could score an upset here. Remember, it's not a completely terrible offense that they have down there. They just ran into a really good almost got me there. They just ran into a really good Washington football team pass defense last week. So those are the picks for Week 13. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Do you agree? Do you disagree? And tell me what you think is going to happen in Week 13. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.